What is up, everybody? DFS Jimmy here for FanShare Sports this week, bringing you the early week course preview. Looks a little bit different than most weeks, and that's because we're at a brand new golf course this week. On tap is the AT&T Byron Nelson, and they have left their home for the past 10 or 12 years. And they have moved over to a brand new and somewhat controversial golf course at Trinity Forest Golf Club, located basically inside the Dallas city limits. The course was built on an old landfill. No joke, the mounding and sort of the natural landscape you're going to see isn't really natural at all. It just came from a whole bunch of people pushing garbage around for a long time. Then they decided to cap it with clay, and they put a whole bunch of millions of dollars into it and turned it into this really nice and extremely interesting golf course that we have on tap this week. The tour pros, I don't believe have ever seen this. I'm sure there's some guys on tour that live out in the area that have played this, but for the most part, this is a brand new golf course for everybody on tour. And the thing about it is not like most golf courses here in the United States, folks. This is a full-blown links golf course 100% of the way, designed with links in mind, mounding all throughout the fairways. There is tons of undulation at this golf course, full on European style bunkers. The greens are incredibly undulating here. There is a shared green on this golf course. It is 35,000 square feet. It's one of the largest greens in North America. Guys, it's the type of green, if you find yourself on the wrong side of, you could be faced with a 100-yard putt. There's a lot of really unique things to get into for this golf course. So before I get into, I guess let's take a look at the card that I've got up here first. You'll see it doesn't have most of our normal scoring. There's never been a real competitive round of golf played on this track. What was it? The Texas State Open, which is an amateur tournament, was set up totally different than this, and the guys scored really well. But it was also set up as a par 70. But it's like the only competitive rounds of golf that have ever been played here with any sort of scoring that's taken place. So we can't read a whole lot into that. But what you're gonna find here is, like I said, it's link style. It's wide open. It's fully exposed to the winds of Texas here, folks. This golf course will play very different dependent upon the weather and the course setup from the tour directors here. So you're going to find 100-yard wide fairways on this track. I mean, missing the fairway is almost out of the question. Again, they will be running, I believe. The area has not seen rain at all last month. Very little rain this month. The tournament directors do want this course firm. So I suspect that we're gonna see a pretty trimmed up golf course here. They keep the fairways extremely tight here. They have their own grass called a Trinity Zoysia that they helped co-design, and it's super low water, crossing root structure, super bouncy, super firm. It's designed to be brown when it's not raining and green when it's just seeing rain. So we could see a bit of a brown golf course here. Very much a take what nature gives you type of setup. Very wide. If the players do miss the fairway here, they're going to be faced with some native, like 40 different species of native high prairie grasses type of thing. Very splotchy, total dice roll whether or not you get a good or bad lie. But I do think players will be able to play out of it should they find themselves, again, missing the 100-yard wide fairways, folks. 100 yards wide. There shouldn't be too many issues with folks missing fairways around here this week. One of the things that you'll notice as you kind of dig into the scorecard here is the four par fours that are 450 yards do rank as the most difficult group of holes in terms of the average handicap for their championship course setup. Not surprising here. Most of your par fours are in the standard range, and they score, and the average difficulty for the course, as you might expect. The par threes do seem to be significantly easier than the rest, and the par fives, interestingly, they appear to be more difficult. One is exceptionally long at 630 yards, and it's the only one on the back nine. Normally, this course plays as a par 72, but the 11th has been converted from a 537-yard par 5 to a 471 yard par 4 for the pros this week. I'm estimating it plays as about the 4th most difficult hole on the course. It could be the 5th, but either way, that's where I expect it to land in terms of difficulty. But guys, there's not a whole lot to be gained in this scorecard this week, I don't think. I mean, it's a 7,300-yard course. I think it probably plays shorter than that because your guys are going to get run and all kinds of crazy bounces. I do think that the average approaches are going to be between 150 and 175. That is where I'm going to be focusing my attention for the approach shots this week. But really, I think we're going to move on here. I'm just going to take you to a quick look at the golf course so visually you kind of have an idea of what these players are up against. Because, again, this is a very, very different golf course than these guys are used to seeing. And then I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the nuances I noticed, some comps, and then we'll dig into a couple of player types real fast. So, jumping over to the actual golf course here, is actually, you see right there, Trinity Forest sort of compares itself to Pinehurst number 2. That is sort of their comparison in-house. Interesting note, because bad scramblers have fared well at Pinehurst. And I believe there's going to be some scrambling this week, guys. So just clicking on one of the pictures here, you see kind of what we're looking at. Sorry about that. You see kind of what we're looking at. Expansive bunkers. You see all the nodules, a lot of really subtle undulation all throughout this layout. This is a good look. There, you are not going to want to be in the edges of any of these bunkers. Pretty significant and severe lips around them. Being in the middle of the bunker, guys can get in and out of them. As you look across the layout, and you can't even see the entire layout through a virtual tour or anything. But there are a lot of bunkers that really come into play in the landing zones for the drives this week. I suspect we'll probably see a lot of guys, specifically trying to avoid those and making club decisions based on that. And again, a lot of this is going to depend on how the course is playing. If we get wind and it's running, guys are definitely going to be taking irons and such off of the tee, because the few videos that I did see about this where Jeff Ogilvie, a co-designer here, talks about the course. Every video, and they filmed it across 2 or 3 different days, was windy as all get out there. I mean, and this course is wide open, as you can see. There's no protection for these golfers anywhere on this golf course to get away from the wind. And it does trek back and forth, so the wind directions are going to change for the guys. You see how almost all the greens, let me go back to that. See how almost all the greens around here they look like upside down bowls. Again, very, very European, traditional link style golf course setup around here. But, guys going after a pin, it seems so unassuming because we expect guys to be able to stick these shots, but the tournament has said that they're going to be firming up these greens. They expect them to run it at 10.5, which is not very fast, but the grass they have, the Championship Bermuda that they used on the greens here, is a firm grass, and it's been down for years. I expect these guys to have this course dialed in the way they want it, and playing probably more difficult than we would expect, or at least that it appears, just by the yardage and, what we would sort of expect from pros to do to a layout like this. But again, weather is going to play a huge factor here. This is some of the native grass you see where these guys might be missing their shots. Very, hit or miss in terms of whether or not you're going to draw yourself a good lie. Obviously, if you're this far off the fairway, you're not going to have a lie. But you see up around here and off all these fairways, very, very, it's patchy. There's some exposed dirt and ground. I don't think it's going to be terrible for guys that are missing these fairways, but again, they're 100 yards wide, folks. I think this is going to be a strategic golf course. So, but again, this is about all the information we have, guys. There's a lot of conjecture that's going to be taking place as to what type of player goes well around here. Again, I think the course probably plays a little shorter than the number they have listed, because I do think that it's going to run. It's going to be firm. There is wind in the forecast, and it's been windy here recently, as is the case in Texas. So the course might be baked out. Again, we're going to have to wait, early in the week or later in the week for Golf Channel and those guys to kind of get eyes and boots on the ground and let us know how the course is setting up. But I guess quickly to look at, to speculate on the types of golfers that might go well around a track like this, I'm going to be looking at form more than anything. But as far as course fit, I think that you can probably find a case to be made for almost any type of golfer on this course. I believe the greens are going to frustrate some folks this week, specifically the approaches, because you're going to be able to run it up and play almost any kind of golf shot you want into these greens. If you want to hit a low running shot and play like a Steve Stricker type of game where you keep the ball in front of you, keeps it low, keeps it on the ground, very controlled type of game, and not real long, that game will certainly be able to compete around here because he doesn't leave himself in bad spots. And what I learned watching some of the videos about this course is the greens are probably what are going to separate the field this week. There is a ton of subtle breaks around here, just lots and lots of subtlety all around, and I believe it's going to perplex some of these guys, and there's going to be a lot of creativity used around the greens. One thing that came to mind was Todd Hamilton's British Open win way back when he used his hybrid all around the greens to take home the claret jug that year. And this course, it visually seems the same way. It seems like the type of course where lots of imagination around the greens is going to be required. And really, these greens are huge. Even not the ones that aren't the double green. These are big greens, and finding yourself on the wrong side of them will mean some roller coaster putts. And I think you could potentially see guys putt balls right off of the green if they take the wrong break or the wrong route through the mounds here at Trinity Forest. So, long story short, guys, there is just going to be a lot of question marks in terms of course this week, course fit, etc. I don't think it's a terrible thing to look back at who's performed well in Scottish Opens, any European Tour player that's in the field this week. Certainly you'd think they'd have an advantage. But bombers might be able to take this place apart if it gets soft. Again, pay attention to weather this week. Pay attention to the course setup. See if you can find an edge, and whatever you go with this week, just be convicted about it and take a stance because everyone's going to be in the same boat this week trying to figure out the course. So with that, guys, this is DFS Jimmy signing off for FanShare Sports Course Preview Early Week Look. Best of luck to you guys this week.